Hello and welcome to the Eating Disorder Therapist podcast. I'm Harriet Frew, eating disorder therapist, here to support you in finding peace with food and overcoming disordered eating. So today I'm going to talk all about learning to self-soothe without using drugs, alcohol, food, scrolling, or some other coping strategy. And this is going to be a bit of a deep dive into self-compassion as well, how we can just treat ourselves so much more kindly, and how this can have such a powerful ripple effect on your well-being. So let's dive in. So life can be extraordinarily difficult at times. As a human, you will naturally make mistakes and mess up. It's just a normal part of life. But how do you respond to your humanness with its understandable flaws and imperfections? Now, from years inside the therapy room, I know that it's commonplace to hear clients vehemently chastising and criticizing themselves. The inner critic rages strongly, and it's a challenge to feel good enough. Now, I'm not immune myself to the critic. As I am writing, speaking this, I notice that I'm feeling cross with myself for starting late, getting distracted, and I'm thinking of the day ahead and considering my cat Bruce's recent plight into ill health and wondering, am I a terrible pet owner? Thankfully, I'm aware of this inner voice due to years of therapy work. It's very conscious for me, so I can detach and offer myself some kind words. But if you haven't had the opportunity or privilege to engage in personal development in this way, your inner judge may be unconsciously running the show. Self-compassion involves extending compassion to yourself in instances of perceived failure, suffering, and not feeling good enough. Now, you are likely adept at extending this kindness and consideration to a beloved friend or a pet, but not so good at delivering this to yourself. And this is where the magic lies. There can often, though, be significant barriers to self-compassion. You may feel unworthy of receiving it. You may also feel that it will render you lazy and unproductive, that you will lose your achieving streak. You also fear that softening the inner critic will leave you despondent and hopeless. And you probably secretly consider that the critic drives you to be a better person and pushes you to achieve. Now, interestingly, the opposite is usually true. Berating and judging yourself often leads to a shame spiral and feelings of self-loathing. And this can then activate self-sabotage behaviours. Things like, I failed, so I might as well completely fail and write the whole day off. Eat more donuts, drink more wine, spend more money. But ponder how you might motivate and encourage your child, a pet, or a dear friend. Words of love and encouragement support progress and direction. Harsh criticism often leads to withdrawal or disengagement, and you are no different. Research shows that people skilled in self-compassion are emotionally resilient and have improved mental well-being. So it is a skill that is certainly worth investing time in developing. Now, compassion-focused therapy, CFT, was developed by psychologist Paul Gilbert. This is a specific therapy that teaches you the very skills that you need to cultivate self-compassion, helping you shift from harsh self-judgment to a kinder and accepting relationship with yourself. And CFT starts from the baseline of no blame. So you are likely prone to self-criticism. Self-compassionate thinking helps you move away from this. It says that you're born into this world with no choice of family of origin, your social environment, and inherited genetics. And it's helpful to view yourself as the innocent baby tossed into the cauldron of life with all its messiness and imperfection. Much of your design, including the way you think, is therefore not your fault. Your environment is hugely impactful. So you may become self-blaming and self-punishing towards yourself due to early experiences with family and early conditioning. And it is the tendency of the child to take the blame and feel responsible. People may have been doing the best that they could at the time to support you, or maybe not. But either way, you were a vulnerable child and at the mercy of situations beyond your control. And by accepting that these factors are truly out of your control, this can be the first step to becoming more self-compassionate. So, how early life shapes our later living. So, a hostile or difficult early life. So, if you're born into an abusive or hostile early environment, then unsurprisingly, you'll grow up developing a threat-focused approach to life. Now, this can include the more obvious big T traumas, such as physical or sexual abuse, but for many people, it's the drip impact of smaller T ones. For example, experiencing your parents struggling with their mental well-being, resulting in them being emotionally absent, or feeling left out of a friendship group at school and feeling lonely and wrong inside. The pervasive impact of seemingly minor criticisms or not feeling seen and understood can impact self-worth hugely. You may not feel safe in the world and might expect the worst case scenario to play out at any moment. In these instances, you will be hypervigilant for danger and will always be looking to flee the bear. Reflecting on your childhood, you might have developed safety strategies to cope and feel better. For example, restrictive eating, or checking things all the time, or counting behaviours, maybe having to have the volume of your TV on a certain number that has to be odd or even, or walking upstairs in a certain order and counting the steps. You could hold a lot of shame inside due to these early experiences, and it may feel extremely hard to trust and be open with others. What about if you had a safe and nurturing early life? So conversely, if you're born into a safe and nurturing environment, you will feel a greater level of trust and contentment in your connections and in relation to life in general. You will likely feel some level of self-acceptance and have less need to prove yourself through perfectionism or worldly achievements. And you will likely more feel peace and internal contentment. And you will connect more easily with others without fear or threat or harm, and you might also find it easier to self-soothe and take care of yourself. For many people, you may find that your early life was a complex mix of nurturing and challenging times. You may have some of those small T traumas. You might also have some relationships in your life which were very nurturing and caring. So in compassion-focused therapy, Paul Gilbert talks about humans having 3 emotional regulation systems. And these are the drive system, the threat system, and the soothe system. As a human being, you have motivations to survive and reproduce. And using your emotions is a way of helping you to achieve these goals. So you create a system which guides you in meeting the challenges of life. So you need a balance of the 3 systems, of the threat, the drive, and the soothe. Otherwise, you can become burned out or stressed. In a busy and overwhelming life, the self-soothe place is often not utilised effectively, as life is lived at top speed on the spinning hamster wheel. With no time, energy, or awareness for constructive soothing, maladaptive self-soothing is a frequent turn to, with alcohol, food, phone scrolling, or self-harm as examples. And this is not to shame you here. These are unconscious helping strategies that have often meant survival for you. So all 3 emotional regulation systems are important, and they have different functions and work to balance and counterbalance one another. So you need the threat system to avoid danger and stay alive. You need the drive system to have purpose and meaning. And you need the soothe system to rest and recharge. Now, dysfunction occurs when you overuse one system. So if you're always anxious, you're likely in the threat for much of the day. If you're feeling low or depressed, you may well be overly striving and burning yourself out. Overuse of the threat or strive systems can result in a dominant critical voice. And distress is caused by an imbalance of the 3 systems, and often it is linked to underdevelopment of the self-soothing system. So let's talk a bit more about each system. So the fight-flight system is a threat and self-protect system. It functions to pick up threats and protect you. The main hormones associated with the system are adrenaline and cortisol, and the feelings are often feelings like anger, anxiety, fear, and disgust. The purpose, striving, incentive resource-seeking system. So the function here is to motivate you towards an incentive and resources to survive. The main hormone is dopamine, so it really gives you that kind of sense of purpose, like you've done something well, and the feelings of wanting, pursuing, achieving. And then the self-soothing system, soothe, care, and contentment system. So the function is to feel safe and content with the way things are. The main hormone is oxytocin, and the feelings are content, peaceful, safe, connected, cared for, and trusting. As an adult, you can learn to activate your soothing emotional regulation system to reduce the fight, flight, threat response and bring more calmness, contentment, and joy into your life. And you can learn constructive and helpful coping strategies for dealing with emotions and slowly letting go of old coping mechanisms. So where are you now? Think about and reflect. How was your early life in terms of safety and emotional support? Did you have any big T traumas? Did you have some small T traumas? Did you have aspects of your life that were safe and nurturing? Which emotional regulation system did you spend most time in? Was it in the threat? Was it in the strive? Or was it in the self-soothe? Which emotional regulation place do you spend most time in now? So most in threat, most in drive, or most in self-soothe? And do you have healthy ways to self-soothe currently? So you may be very reliant on food or alcohol or scrolling or overwork or lots of different things that perhaps cannot be so healthy. But how do you self-soothe? How do you look after yourself? How do you calm your nervous system and help yourself to feel more soothed and peaceful? So if you're not sure about this, think about utilizing the 5 senses for soothing. So sight, things like being in nature, looking at a beautiful beach or trees or flowers, or it could even just be a beautifully aesthetic home, which just feels really safe and calming. Hearing as well. Do you listen to music? Do you like the bird song? Do you just like to listen and hear nothing at all, just being in complete silence and really finding peace there? Taste as well. You might really enjoy a certain cup of tea or a cup of coffee or a herbal tea, or maybe certain foods as well. You're eating them really mindfully. Again, that can make you feel very, very soothed. Smells as well. Sometimes people like to light candles or liking the smell of freshly cut grass or fresh sheets. Many different things that can make us feel soothed. And touch. Are you someone who likes to wear certain clothes that make you feel really soothed? And I know for me, anyone who's known me, listened to me for a while, that I love my leopard furs. And for me, touch is a very soothing thing. And I think just touching my pet cat Bruce as well, find that very, very soothing. And hearing the sound of his purr, I found that very soothing as well. So think about, how do you self-soothe? So you can learn self-compassionate skills as an adult. So it's worth remembering that you do have an innate ability to be compassionate, even if it feels unfamiliar. As a human being, you will often go out of your way to help others. You know what it means to be kind, thoughtful, and compassionate. You're just not so good yet at doing this for yourself. I always think yet is a very good word. So it's a valuable skill to hone. Self-compassion reduces shame, encourages openness, and brings a surge of oxytocin, that feel-good contentment you get from stroking a pet or holding a baby. So how to develop self-compassion? Thoughts by Kristin Neff. So Professor Kristin Neff is a trailblazer in research and understanding self-compassion. And she talks about 3 pillars of practicing self-compassion, including self-kindness, shared humanity, and mindful awareness. Before exploring these, it sounds obvious, but it's helpful to fully acknowledge that becoming self-compassionate is a helpful thing to do, even if you don't feel like it yet. Act first and the feelings will follow. You are deserving of self-compassion as much so as any other human being. So how to become self-compassionate? First of all, self-kindness. You are likely exemplary at offering kindness and support to a good friend or pet. These actions help your loved ones to feel accepted and supported. You need to learn to comfort and soothe yourself in the same way with your words, actions, and thoughts. For example, when you have a difficult day, you take extra good care of yourself in the evening. You show yourself empathy and warmth. You don't berate yourself for things that are not working out. And you don't engage in self-sabotaging toxic behaviors. And your thoughts, words, and actions may be things like, never mind that it didn't work out. Some days are harder. I had a tough day today. How can I take care of myself this evening? Having a soothing bubble bath, phoning up a good friend and venting, reading a favourite book or watching a film, resting or listening to some music. These are examples. And again, you can think about activating the 5 senses with your self-care through sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. Acknowledge your shared humanity. This means recognizing that every single human is a flawed individual with imperfections and weaknesses. No one has it all sussed out by any means. In your moments of failure and imperfection, you are not alone. Many people are going through similar difficulties in this very moment. It's a valuable perspective to zoom out and appreciate this, as in your hard moments you can feel very alone and isolated. And the last one is becoming mindfully aware. This means being able to acknowledge your thoughts and feelings without judging, avoiding, or bottling them up. This puts some distance between your thoughts, feelings, and yourself. For example, if you lose control of your eating without awareness, you might label yourself as a greedy person with no self-control. But with awareness, you can take a step back and pause. You can reflect on what has happened and notice that you were over-hungry and stressed. You can be curious and questioning of the event and offer yourself insight and understanding. To help with developing mindful awareness, slow down and allow yourself to reduce the speed of the busy life treadmill. And every day, work to allow precious moments to pause and reflect. If you have limited time, 5-minute snapshots can be hugely beneficial. So it might involve slowing down your breathing and connecting with your body, going out into the garden and pottering, pausing to look out the window, using a meditation app, laying on the bed and resting, making a cup of tea and sitting down to drink it mindfully, allowing yourself to get support and be open with trusted others. Because when you hold everything inside, you can feel isolated and alone, assuming that everyone else is coping. But when you share and practice openness, you realize that we are all in the same boat, muddling imperfectly along. Openness encourages mutual support, empathy, and builds trust. Self-compassion takes practice. It is definitely worth the investment though. Becoming a good friend to yourself is one of the most effective ways to improve and sustain positive mental health. So 10 ways to become more self-compassionate. Number 1, when you are tired, rather than relentlessly pushing yourself to the limit, stop and allow yourself to rest without guilt. Number 2, make time to feed yourself nutritious and delicious food. Fueling your body is a cornerstone of self-care. Number 3, when you feel sad or anxious or angry, talk kindly to yourself and listen to your feelings. They are guiding and communicating with you. Look after yourself as you would a dear friend in distress. Number 4, when work is overwhelming, take time out to rejuvenate and soothe yourself rather than taking on more. Number 5, when something goes wrong, take action to remedy the situation. Forgive yourself and accept that we all make mistakes. Move on and learn from the experience. Number 6, regularly recognize your unique qualities and gifts. This is not about arrogance, but a gentle, quiet knowing. And number 7, have gratitude for the blessings that you do have, putting the blinkers on to comparisons with others. Number 8, learn to say no when you get the sinking feeling of obligation, when too much is demanded of you. Learn to set healthy boundaries. And number 9, see the funny side of life. Humor can lighten your experiences considerably and places life in perspective. Does it matter that much? And number 10, listen to your joy. What makes you feel excited, happy, and hopeful? Ensure that you make ample time for your joy in daily life. And it's often the simplest little things that make our hearts light up and sing. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope it's given you some little kind of tips and thoughts and reflections to think about being more compassionate to yourself and also practicing self-soothing. Okay, so if you're not following me already on Instagram, do seek me out, the Eating Disorder Therapist _. And for further support with your relationship with food, do go to the eatingdisordertherapist.co.uk. And if you enjoy this podcast, I would be so grateful if you'd follow, rate, and review, as it helps it reach so many more listeners. Thank you so much for listening today, and I look forward to sharing another podcast episode with you very soon.